Woohoo! And happy Thursday. Terry James here, mindset coach and digital entrepreneur. I'm going live to my Facebook friends, everyone on Linky, YouTubies, Twitteries, and we're also making a special little live into Clubhouse rooms today. Today I'm joined with my friend, my online buddy, partner, fitness guru, and all-round general legend, James Breakspeare, also firefighter. James and I have been connected for a little while, gives me some top tips and tricks with my own health journey. We thought we'd come out today, not literally, but I always say this, we're always going to come out today to have a chat with you guys about what's been working for us. Also a little bit of James's work and how he's helping people to level up in 2022. We're going to be covering a little bit on mindset, bit of movement, goals, diet, and the habits that we need to form to make all of these things possible. So without further ado, James, happy Thursday, happy New Year, my friend. How's it going? And tell us, welcome to my little omnipresence thing, and thank you for joining me today.
No drama, mate. No drama. Thanks for having us on.
Very welcome.
I mean, stuff's good. Starting the year off well, you know. Yourself?
Yeah, very good. I finished doing my kind of 10-week challenge just before New Year. It was a tough slog. I did what the entrepreneurs know as the 75 hard challenge. I was also rubbing in some digital kind of stuff and courses into that as well. So I knew it would be very tough. I knew it was going to be hard to achieve, but I wanted to get the momentum, get the habits formed before 2022, so that I'd be actually walking into this new year with a lot of new habits in place. And then the things which I struggled with, I can just highlight and go again with those. So 5-6 weeks in, I dropped 5-6 kilos, which was great. Then I realized from what I was eating was like a couple of protein shakes with fruit in and a proper clean meal, a colorful meal with some good protein. And then about 5-6 weeks in, I realized I was getting fatigued, quite tired, and I wanted to start lifting some more weights. So it was actually your posts, and by your knowledge was kind of give me the tip to get more fiber in my diet. So I then actually started eating more kind of potatoes, brown bread, and then started bulking up somewhat. Had a couple of injuries what held me back. And that was the main thing I identified at the beginning, really, was what's going to stop me. One was environment, being that it's the holiday season and family, friends, birthdays, parties, stuff. But mainly was by me going too hard at the beginning, and then injury would stop me. And that's what stopped me in the past, to be honest. So, so that's cool. And I've maintained sort of 71 kilo. I know that as I get stronger, you know, muscle weighs more than fat, but I also need to be mindful of the, you know, the clean eating and stuff. So that was, you know, that was good. So now I'm kind of thinking, right, I'm going to be in the gym, lifting some heavier weights, watching my diet. But I also need a structure for that, because if I don't have a plan, I pretty much plan to fail, I think. So
absolutely.
I knew that you'd give me some insights today and some great tips to actually carry me on to above and beyond.
My brain never stops ticking. But mate, there's a couple of bits there that you've said like that sort of resonate with me, and I think, you know, might be useful to other people that I'm sort of going to like regress back to a little bit. And that's that you looked at your environment and realized that there's things there that you may already see that you're going to slip up with. And I don't know, everybody seems to start out on this health and fitness kick, right, coming into this time of year. It's just typical. Some start before it, and, you know, great work if they do. Some maintain it all the way through. But for a vast majority, I guess they sort of start in January. And, you know, start on this, like, you know, you're going to cut everything out. You're going to do this, do that, do the other. You know, everything's hard, balls to the wall, you know, gym, you know, 15 times a day, so on and so forth, right? You know, we've all been there, and I think we've all done these mistakes in the past, you know, so it's not a judging of anything. But the big thing, what you've identified there, and that, you know, if I could say to anybody to, like, you know, look at, will be actually looking at of controlling of the environment, of looking at the factors that are going to stop you and trip you up along the way, and being mindful of them. Because if we're mindful of them, not actually a trip up, right? I mean, how many times...
Stop it before you get to it, you're aware of it, of, oh yeah, I've kind of factored this in, and you've already got a plan.
But how many times have we gone through those sorts of, you know, cycles? I mean, I did this when I when I really started looking into reducing the alcohol, pretty much out of my life. It is out of my life completely now. I haven't actually put that out there. I'm just like, I'm fucking done with it, right? It was nearly out of my life before. It's completely out of my life now because it serves me no purpose, right? But over the years, I've gradually dwindled down, and gone many times, gone teetotal, not this, not and tried to take those things out without then thinking about the environment that's going to trip me up. A big one is for me if I go to see a football match, and I go with any of my mates or I'll go with the other half or something like that. I do generally enjoy having a beer before the match starts. Just standing in, soaking in the atmosphere, or going to, I'm an Evertonian. So if I go to, I don't like admitting that at the minute, but I'm also a Grimsby fan as well. So I've got there's nothing either end, is there? It's like,
don't worry, I'm a Palace fan. More people don't like that than Evertonians.
oh, that's all right then. But yeah, I mean, I've done that before, and I've gone to what they call the Blue Room, which opposite the ground, and I've gone there and sat in there, and all of a sudden I find out I've got a pint in my hand because I haven't allowed that. It's all right, I'm so one. And then we go through this stage, days later, where I'm going to beat myself up or I'm going to kick myself or whatever it might be. So we haven't looked at that. Now, I'm not saying everybody has to go to the extreme of cutting alcohol out. For some people, they deal all right with it. Me, I just don't like it in my life anymore. For not so much the hangover, it's how it makes my mood, mental state, everything for weeks, 2-3 weeks afterwards. I don't like it. So I think it's important when we look at those things and we look at sort of what's going to happen along that, about how we're going to react to those types of situations. Because if we hadn't taken that environment into the equation, a lot of people just beat themselves up. A lot of people kick themselves when they're down. A lot of people emotionally bash themselves. And it's like this constant start-stop sort of continuum that people are on. It's like, it doesn't need to be that way. It's like, if you understand it,
to make themselves feel better, it's a roller coaster, isn't it?
Absolutely. But a lot of people will go through that. It's something like, I said this before on the live the other week, it's something like 85% of people give up between January and March. 85% of people that start give up. It's like, fucking hell, how much of that could be prevented by people understanding the pitfalls that they're going to face? How many kids' birthday parties have I got coming up? How many friends' birthday parties? How many weddings? How many different things that I'm going to encounter, work studies, whatever it might be, where I'm actually going to go out, I'm going to have a beer, or I'm going to go out, I'm going to eat some cake, or we're going to go out for a meal, or whatever it might be. You might already have things booked in a diary. Well, allow those within that, because if you're prepared for that, and the rest of the time is, is pretty on point. I always think of the 80-20 principle, and I think that crosses over a lot in a lot of areas. I go for me, I work probably about 85-90, but I try and get clients to eventually get up to like an 80%. So what I mean by that is 80% minimally processed. I don't like the word like clean foods and unprocessed foods, because everything's processed. The chicken breast is cooked right, it has to be, or you're eating feathers. So it's processed, but it's minimally processed. So I like to get clients to look at that, and it's like 80% of the food sources they're going to try to eat are going to come from that. That allows 20%.
Whole foods is what you're talking about, yeah, whole foods.
Absolutely. So that's going to allow
sweeties from the earth.
Yeah, mate. It's the stuff that makes us, reality is most people know that they need to eat that. But this terminology of have a little bit of what you want gets thrown around. Like, it's all in moderation, but nobody understands what moderation looks like. It's all in moderation. Yeah, but you're having moderation daily.
Problems look different at different levels for different people. So sometimes it just needs to be quite linear and black and white, doesn't it? Like, well, this is your yes list and this is your no list. And then sometimes if like you've rightly put there, if you've got like a wedding at the end of, say, this month, well, that's going to be the day when I let myself have what I want, kind of thing. So that you're then not creating a kind of like a mindset block around the sacrifices you're making. But I do think sometimes that with that, if someone's why they're doing it isn't really, really clear, that's another reason why it can stop them. Because you very quickly forget, don't you? And just go, oh, fuck it. Like at the football. I mean, that's a perfect example for me. Many times do the walk and talk, the charity events with the football team. And then, there's a pint there. It's just a given. And it's like, I mean, I'm a massive water advocate, as you know, and I'm there with my own water bottle. But I've always found it very hard to say no. and then it comes into kind of peer pressure and stuff. But then you're then beat yourself up because you didn't say no. Or someone's like, oh, shut up, you tart, just have a pint. And you're like, oh, next thing you know, you've got to pay. And then you've gone, oh, the next day's written off as well. So yeah, completely understand where you're coming from with that.
But that why is important. It's so important because, I mean, I do this with clients. When I first start with a client, we have a phone call. And I do that for multiple reasons, because I have to be a good fit for them and they have to be a good fit for me, right? I won't work with people that I don't think I can help. And I want to work with people that I think I'm going to enjoy working with. And one of the first things that I dive deep down into is that why. Because nobody ever just wants to lose £5. That's never a fucking reason. Nobody wants to lose £10. Nobody wants to lose 2 or 3 stone. That ain't the reason. The reasons for gents, it might be that the partners stop having fucking sex with them. It might be that they can't fit in the clothes and they feel like a slob or something like that. It might be that somebody at their work has dropped that little subtle piss-taking remark. Fucking look at a belt, you got it on the last hole. And actually, deep down, even though we're men, I think it's becoming more prevalent these days that actually we're a bit more open to this sort of stuff. But even still, people will take the piss and then we start to feel something about it. And it's those things there that are going to drive us towards actually achieving the things that we want to achieve and why we want to achieve them. The why for myself, why I do what I do, isn't anything to do anymore. We now understand this isn't anything to do anymore with necessarily just helping people within health and fitness. My why is that growing up as a dad with a dad that was really ill, my why dives back to I don't want a child to go through what I went through. I don't want, and it becomes very, very powerful. And I think people need to look at that when they're starting out within that journey.
Yeah, I mean, I know that your mission is to help lads and dads basically get into a fitness space where they've got the energy to be the best they can be with their kids, right? Yeah. Essentially, you put it much better because it's your mission. But I got that as first time I met you, and I can resonate with that because I had a little girl when I was 30, and she doesn't live with me, but I also knew through like my nephews being born around that time as well. And I was probably between the ages of 25 up to 35 was in the worst physical state that I'd ever been in. I'd never really known about self-development. Okay, I'd been to the gym and stuff when I was 16, 17, would go to the gym. Never had personal trainers, never pushed myself extremely hard, was always the one, if we were playing football, that was the last one running around the pitch, or my position was officially left back in the changing room, or I was the lino. But now I'm actually better at all those kind of team sports and what have you than I was when I was younger. Maybe that comes with experience, but I also think it comes with kind of knowledge, tenacity, and the willingness to do it. So personally, having a kind of like a health scare, saying that, your cholesterol's high. The doctor didn't know recreationally what I was doing in the background, but I mean, I was living in Spain, so I don't think she'd have to guess too hard that we're out on the raz every single night. I was good. I was going to the gym and bike rides and stuff like that, but the soaring of the mental health really, really held me back, to the point when sometimes you just end up you'd have a drink one night and the next day you would just kind of roll straight into drinking because that was almost the recovery that you needed. So having nephews coming over and stuff like that, and I was just shattered. I couldn't run around after them, and I was thinking, hang on, I've got a daughter now. I don't want to be one of these dads that's going to be, huffing and puffing and saying, no, I'm not playing with you kind of thing. I thought actually something switched, and I started thinking about like the whole mortality thing, and I started thinking I actually want to be around now as long as possible and to have the best standard of life while I'm here. So that's when I got a PT, lost 25 kilos. He was absolutely brilliant, still a very, very close friend of mine. He was ex-forces, so just what I needed, a really firm hand, but also a friend. And the coaching industry now is I suppose now people still see coaches as in the fitness space, but in general, coaches, it's more mindset than anything else, and it's
Absolutely.
creating the good habits. It's being there to offer support, accountability, even community to a certain degree. Because I know personally the fear, like I could have said, I'm going to the gym this morning. I've not, so I've said I'm going to go to the gym after this call with you. Whether or not then something steers me away from it or not is completely down to me. But if I had the accountability and someone there that I had to go and meet, the fear of letting them down would have got me to go. So I think on those first steps of the journey, whether it be when people are in clubs or whether they're just starting to, I mean, fitness classes are brilliant for that because you push yourself harder. You push yourself harder when a PT's there saying, come on, push it into a 10. And you're going, oh, God, I'll fucking die. I can't breathe. And you're like, okay, well, if it's not injury, I'm not going to tell you to slow down pretty much, right? So, but then people might trick you and say, oh, yeah, it's starting to hurt. It's starting to hurt, because they're trying to give themselves a little time off. And then as a, you know, as someone there that's, I suppose, got a duty of care, you might say slow down a bit. But in general, you will push yourself harder and faster with accountability and with someone there who's spotting you and got your back. So in the modern technical revolution that we're in, and the education and knowledge industry, it's so important, isn't it, to have that accountability and to actually have a clear vision of why you want to do what you're doing. I think that's why fitness clubs, in my mind, fail. They've got a retention rate which is absolutely fantastic. Believe it or not, I've been to Slimming World. I've done the Weight Watchers things when I was younger. My sister, my mum, and girlfriends have done it on and off for years. And the one thing's always congruent. We said about knowing our environment and then knowing what we got coming up so that we can plan that into our fitness journey, should we say. But if you're doing it for a wedding, as soon as that wedding's been and gone, you're like, well, I've met my target now, and they've let go of it. And then they just have everything that they've done, so that they did before, that got them to where they didn't want to be. And all of a sudden, it all piles back on again. The one thing that's missing from those clubs is the accountability, the knowledge, but more so knowing the why and creating the habits so that then you don't just stop. And then what happens? Absolutely. They end up going back again. 2 months later, they're going, oh, Deirdre's back, you know, Pete's back. Oh, I've put the weight back on.
It's just that vicious sort of fucking cycle, isn't it? You know, it's like you go up a roller coaster and then you get to the top and all of a sudden you come back down again. It's just like, I find it a bit bizarre because in the early days when I first started training, you know, you're going back to like, I don't know, in my early teens, very early teens is when I first started picking a weight up. And I fell in love with it very quickly. You know, I loved everything from the sound of the weight clanging against the bar, the whole lot. And then didn't train, went down the fucking road all a lot and everything else. You know, my story's like quite well publicised on different sites and all the rest of it. But it's almost like that, I don't know, people use the term sort of a yo-yo sort of thing, but they never really, I did like a little bit of a post on this. People never lean into that pressure. You know, the post I heard, the great analogy that I heard of this morning was on a podcast that I listened to. And it was about blowing a balloon up. And when the balloon gets full, all of a sudden, like, you know, that's maximal pressure, then it pops, right? Well, if you let a tiny little bit of air out, it's nearly at its limit, but it's not quite there. And that's almost where people tend to get, you know, with this sort of yo-yo sort of approach. They just lean into that little bit of pressure, you know, the balloon's just getting full, and then they stop. And then they've got to fucking start it all again. But the reality is, and again, I did this the other day, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest, right? So it's kind of, we're getting ourselves started and then we're stopping. Getting ourselves started and then we're stopping. And it's fucking hard. It's twice as hard to get started again because you know what you went through. Now, in the early days, what I was going to was that people used to say to me, what are you training for? I don't know. I was just fucking training. I just enjoyed training as a young kid. I just got into training. I just loved everything about it.
Yeah, so we didn't call it diet, did we? We didn't call it.
Yeah, mate.
I'm training. I'm not on a diet. I'm training.
I'm not on a diet. I'm just training. It's like, what are you in that for? I'm just training. That's what you do when you train, right? But it became a way of life. You know, it doesn't. I always say to everybody when, you know, they jump on any programs with us, I like to help people with ways of training and nutrition that doesn't take over your life. I like to, if it was simple, everybody would do it. And in my mind, that's how it needs to be. You know, forget all your calorie counting, forget your macro counting, forget living in the gym 5 days a week, hour and a half a time, whatever it might be. Doesn't need to be that complex for most
Yeah, you
people.
don't actually need to do that much because your body be fatigued. I think something like maybe 3 or 4 good 45-minute workouts doing different body is pretty much enough if you're doing the right thing. And
4
80%
sessions a week is all I do.
yeah,
4 sessions a week.
80% eating the right things. I mean, I know that if you've had a night out or whatever, you might then say, well, I'm going to go and do an hour bike ride because that's your that's kind of like your treat, or you know that you're going to have to burn extra calories off because you've had a 3-course meal, or so you can kind of, you can play with it, can't you? Certainly.
Absolutely. I mean, the way I work and the way I structure my training, for anybody who's listening, anybody who wants to know, is Monday tends to be like a medium sort of base day for me. I don't tend to do like, big hard day or anything on a Monday because I've had 2 days rested. Tuesday, I tend to do a recovery day. Wednesday, I have off. Thursday is a medium day, and Friday is a recovery day. Only very occasionally, because of the nature of the other job that I do, and the fact that I'm actually, a father to 2 kids and I've got other work and that, very occasionally do I throw in what I'd call a hard base training day. And a lot of what I do, I focus on quite low intensities. Certainly within cardiovascular work, I focus on low intensities because it's those types of things that are going to stimulate your heart health, to start with anyway. Nobody wants to do this like long, slow, boring cardio. To think it's fucking, it's gonna draw back off you, but it isn't. So it actually benefits your lifting when you come to your lifting because it's your aerobic system that's going to help you recover. So I incorporate a lot of that sort of stuff as well on a weekly basis. But I keep the ranges sort of quite moderate. I'm not kicking the arse out of it. I'm not lifting everything heavy all the time. I'm not doing 5 or 6 fucking interval sessions a week. I'm actually focusing on the different parameters that are in there because, to quote a mentor of mine, and someone that I've been privileged to learn from, Joel Jameson, it's not how much you can do, it's how much you can recover from. And people forget that they go out there and work 40 hours a week. That takes recovery. People forget that they have to get up with the kids in the middle of the night, and suddenly you've had 5 hours sleep rather than 8. That takes recovery. All that, the stress from work, and I can tell a difference with this. The stress from work, you've had the boss giving you grief, or you're working for yourself and suddenly the pressure's on with a deadline or whatever it might be. That takes recovery because stress requires energy. So those things have to be factored into your training program, but it doesn't need to be complex. So those easy days could be, as you say, fucking bike ride. It's
Just
like
walk, just moving your body,
just move.
walk.
Yeah, a little bit of light body weight training, just a gentle jog, something like that. Your harder days, if you want to get to the gym twice a week, cool. But I tell you what, if you're feeling bollocks, is actually having that sense of state to turn around and say, you know what, I'm not cupping out. I'm having an easy day today. I'm going to do a little bit of light movement, light sweat on for sort of half an hour, and I'll feel better after it. And if it was somebody that was going to go out there and go track all the recovery benchmarks and things like that, I now do, you'll probably see that your recovery will be better and your parameters within things like heart rate variability and such like will be better the next day as well. Certainly the case for me anyway.
Well, they say, don't they, the best time to train is when you're kind of saying, oh, do you know what, I just want the day off. And if you do just go and do something, you feel so much better. I mean, I remember for years I have this routine where I'd go in, do my set. I like an empty gym because then I can sort of do like a mini set between a few machines.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not doing the whole standing around talking to your mate or doing the breathing while the PT's there with you. I like just being quite impact, sharp and impactful.
Yeah.
And I'd go and do my thing, and then I'd be like, right, I'm in the sauna, I'm in the jacuzzi, doing my stretching. We don't stretch enough anyway, do we? Tend to. We do when we're in classes and stuff, but for ourselves. But just doing that kind of Pilates-based stuff. The first lockdowns that we had in England, all I had was a small group of people that wanted to work out daily. So a lot of it was kind of like a bit like lady Pilates stroke yoga, which is great for me because I'm quite heavily muscled. My maneuverability is kind of, I'm stiff. So doing all that was brilliant. But I didn't just had, what are they called? Resistance bands. And I
Yeah.
just did, and I actually lost good weight, had good muscle gain just by doing that and doing time under tension, slowly doing things. I saw somewhere about people, if I was where I stand here, they're going like this with their weight, but you could do it the other way, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what the actual word for that is, but it's a technique of where you'd usually kind of go slow one way, hold, go down, but do it back to front, because then you're
Yeah. I mean, it
muscle
depends on what you want to
recovery.
achieve, I guess, because you've got different types of rep range. You've got different types of rep ranges. You've got different types of time under tension, they call it, of what, you know, and depending on what you're doing, depends on what you want to achieve. You know, a lot of people, if you look back to some of the old bodybuilders years ago, there was one in particular who worked every range of the movement. So you've got the concentric and the eccentric is what they call it, of the movement itself. Um, and then you've got like the static hold. Well, he would curl up slow, he would hold, and then he would curl down slow. And he would want to take the muscle to complete failure. Now, I don't know, some people may argue for that, some people may argue against that. But the point being is, if you've only got your body and you've got one resistance band, you've got a gym. Honest to God, you've got a gym. And most people overcomplicate it because, as you already said, well, body weight squats become easy. Okay, stick a foot on the couch and then do it as a split squat. Is it now easy because now you're using one leg? Yeah, it's getting a bit easier again. Okay, slow the rep down. Do 5 seconds down. You know, or do 2 seconds down, 0 rest, 2 seconds up, 0 rest. Do that for 10 reps. You know, could you do it explosively? You know, could you do a single leg without your foot on the couch and turn it into like what they call a pistol squat? You know, like a typical calisthenic-based movement. There's multiple ways in which you can stimulate the body. You don't always need to add more weight. You just need to add a different form of resistance to be able to get that. You could change the rep range is another way. Because the reality is with body weight training, it's not going to make massive differences whether you do 10 reps or 5 reps. The reality is because you haven't got loads of resistance, but by changing the rep range, you've suddenly got a different stimulus. And as long as you're keeping the body guessing, you know, if you're going 2 weeks and then you change the program for 2 weeks, then you change it again for 2 weeks, your body ain't getting a chance to adjust. It wants to.
Yeah, that's an important fact, isn't it? Is that you need to, your body evolves very, very quickly in a strength from where it needs to, because it thinks like essentially DNA wise, it thinks it's working. So you'd be out in the fields or, you know, hunting, gathering or hunting. So it then, that's why your body, I notice when someone do like laboring, for instance, it'll be back breaking for the first week, but then after the second week, they're lifting up loads of, you know, whatever it is they're carrying, and it's no drama. And then as you move on to another job, you might be then having to bend over and do other stuff. So your body needs to be almost like tricks so that it doesn't evolve. And I think that goes with diet as well. Sometimes your body will very quickly evolve and start holding on to, oh, I know that this is my eating window, so I'm now going to hold on to this kind of thing. So then you change it up somewhat. And I love the fact that you mentioned there, and it reminded me about the word focused attention, because I've done it myself where you can just sort of stand there and throw weights around, and it's probably a good way to injure yourself. But when you do it slower and it's with a good technique and you're kind of doing it steadily, like especially with core work, you should be focused on the muscle. I mean, this comes into kind of my holistic kind of work that I do. But if you're focused on the muscle and then you're doing it slowly and almost loving the muscle and imagining the muscle growing and being at one with your body and listening to your body, so you know that, okay, that's enough kind of thing. You go a little bit too much. I mean, I'm always very wary, especially on my chest, of not creating injury. So if I'm lifting and I'm only not doing heavy weights and I just start feeling like a little pull here, I know that's enough for today. And I'm not even probably going to like stretch too much. I'm just going to kind of nurture it, you know, do what needs to be done and then slowly work the muscle. Because if I have an injury, I'm not doing that for a week.
Absolutely.
So getting real connected with yourself and like actually the focused attention on the exercises you're doing and actually doing them slower and stuff like that, so that you don't create injury, that you are actually you know, focused on the muscle group that you want to use. I mean, I use one of these, like, I don't know what they're called, but like a cradle for doing crunches, because
Okay.
I have like injuries in my lower back, and I can't, and I wouldn't just be on a mat in a gym trying to do that. I end up pulling my neck where I'm trying to do it wrong. So I use machines to assist me. But when I'm there doing it, I am actually engaging my core, and I'm actually thinking about what I'm doing. Whereas I know years ago, I would literally just be going like this until, well, I'll just keep doing this until it starts hurting. But now I don't count until it hurts. I won't go, well, I've done 50. I'm like, well, I do 150 before it starts burning now. And I'm like, now's when I start counting.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that's a good way when you get to a certain level of fitness to actually kind of keep a real tight, close eye on your gains and how you're doing. It's one thing I noticed when I'd gone down to sort of 69, 70 kilos was I didn't feel physically strong. But once I carved up and had like, wet potatoes and stuff like that, I actually felt like I felt physically bigger. But then when I would drop down and do like my push-ups or something, when I just do them in like say the office here, I was like, whoa, like pumped out 30, 40, no problem. But a few days before I was getting to 20 and I was like, oh, I'm starting to slow up a bit now and I don't want to injure myself. So that level of awareness, especially if you are doing it on your own, is awesome to have. It's almost like you get addicted to it, I think, isn't it? You get a little bit of addicted with this the journey that you go on, especially when you start seeing the difference and you're feeling good. You get confidence, don't you? I mean, massively is a confidence thing. When people look good, they feel good. The door's open both ways. You've got to think right, haven't you, to actually get yourself in that place.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
super
I think
important.
some of that awareness thing comes with age. I remember training as a younger kid. I don't think I was as aware as what I am now. I think that definitely has come more with age. And then I listen to my body about what it needs at certain times. Every now and then I'll completely back off and I'll just drop myself down to bodyweight training. Every now and then might just be like more kettlebell work or whatever it might be. Might be more dumbbell based stuff that's in there, because I'm not training anymore to compete. I just enjoy the process of training. I've got loads of different things that I like to be able to do. Like this year's goal for me physically is to get better on my mountain bike. I bought a mountain bike again last year and haven't rode a mountain bike properly since I was mid-teens or something like that. And it's quite scary. It's quite scary. Like getting on it and going down the hill, going, oh God, it's not there. There's a little like lever that's in my head now that says this will hurt if you come off. Whereas as a kid, I used to go down fucking great steep hills on the skateboard with no helmet, no arm pads on, come off, cut my arms to pieces, get back up and do it again. Now, I'll be like, you ain't getting me going down there, man. No way. Right, so for me, my main goals this year are to obviously stay fit. I want to be able to continue to measure that my fitness is increasing, and I do that on a daily basis with my benchmarks. But it's also understanding it's like occasionally I'll just back off completely for like 4 weeks. 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks here in some cases, and just go, you know what, all I'm going to do is some kettlebells and bodyweight training. 1, because it freshens it up for me. 2, because it gives my body a rest. But then I'm understanding that little bit. It's understanding that little bit of awareness about, I don't need to be big lifting all the time. I don't need that anymore in my life. Yeah, there's things that are going to benefit from lifting more weight, but I ain't there anymore. I've gone through those stages with powerlifting and strongman and all that sort of stuff. I don't need it. So yeah, it's interesting that.
So you said there about lifting the big weights. One thing it popped back into my awareness when I was like, right, I'm going to join the gym. I'm going to actually get the bike out. It was the reason for that was I knew that I wasn't really doing and working my legs that much, and my legs are naturally big for riding bikes for years. Yeah. So I knew that like sort of my legs and your butt are the biggest some of the biggest muscle groups. So they're actually going to use the most kind of calories or energy. So I was like, well, I can start doing some of that stuff. So that'll actually get the cardio kind of stuff done, but then I can lift the weights as well. But also it's going to allow me to eat more fiber and rich foods to actually gain weight. And so I wanted to look into the benefits of superfoods, and I thought that's actually, you probably have a plethora of knowledge about superfoods and about what kind of foods can marry up to fasten up people's metabolism. I've got a slow metabolism, so I've got to be very, very mindful about what I eat, because my weight can fluctuate massively week on week if I'm basically not in check with it. So superfoods and knowing the application of those is super, super powerful information for people.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept because everybody speaks about superfoods these days. I just call it food because to me it's like real food. Because years ago, I mean, I think like years ago, no caveman ran around and called it fucking superfood, did they? But the concept is there these days, right? You know, I don't know. I was reading something the other day and it said superfood on it. Can't even remember what it was. It's my dog, because I feed my dog and my cat on a raw diet. And on the side of the packaging for the cat, all raw food, it said superfoods because it had like berries and things like that in there. But that's what we grew on, you know, as a hunter-gatherer species. That was just the norm for us: nuts, seeds, berries, all that sort of stuff. And depending on probably where you come from in the world, with like the root veggies and all the rest of it, I just don't think that maybe we eat as much of the food as what we would have done. I went on a bushcraft course a couple of years ago. Lockdown had lifted a bit and I went out, and it's something I've always wanted to do. And I was learning different bits about the foods there. Now, if somebody was to say to me superfood, in my head I think about stuff like that because that's largely untapped. So that's stuff like even down to your brambles or your nettles or your thistles with the roots and how much nutrient must be in those things. And they reckon that dandelion leaves are far superior to like kale, yet nobody goes out there and picks a dandelion leaf, right? Because it's foods that we don't eat anymore. For meat eaters, how many meat eaters go out there and eat, you know, heart, a liver, or a kidney? Most don't. I try and get one source of. I don't eat heart, but I try and get one source of like either liver or kidney in a week because it's rich in nutrients. And it's just stuff that we don't eat, you know, anymore. So when I look at foods in that sort of sense, mate, what I tend to look at is, to quote again another friend of mine that I learned from years ago, was trying to aim for a rainbow a day. If you imagine a rainbow, it's got every color on it, right? And you know, I don't think anybody out there, I certainly can't remember every nutrient that's in every food. Even going through the nutritional qualifications, become a, you know, with a nutritionist and stuff that I've done, I can't remember every nutrient that's in every food. But what I can remember is, like, have I had a green today? Yeah, that's going to do something different to a yellow because it's different things are going to make different colors, right? Have I had any red today? Actually, I ain't. You know, have I had purple, beetroot, something like that? Yeah, they're all going to do slightly different things to our body, but it's like, you know, are we getting in a vast array of colors on a daily basis? Then when we go down the route of meat, you know, I do prefer, and this is obviously budget allowing for a lot of people, you know, I can't do this 100%, but I do prefer like your grass-fed organic meats. Now, obviously, you know, if you're a vegan, vegetarian, or even a pescatarian, or anything like, you know, that prefers different choices, you're gonna have your stuff that you like anyway. But for meat eaters out there, for me, I definitely prefer like grass-fed, you know, organic, pasture-raised, or sort of, you know, whatever you want to call it. Meats.
Well, I think I can taste the difference.
I think you can taste the difference. They do recommend in studies.
I taste fear in it.
Yeah, well,
how like tight the meat is, especially like lamb and things like that, lamb and beef, when it's sort of like just packets and packets of it just laying down like the aisle in Sainsbury's or something. You know, something just doesn't sit right. But then if you go to like a nice farm shop and, you know, the farmer's kind of looked after his animals and that kind of thing, I do, you know, maybe that's kind of like an energy holistic kind of thing, but I do feel the difference, and I'll be like,
well, no, I think, you know, the way I look at it, I don't think we keep animals the way they should. In fact, there's no think about it, is that we don't keep animals the way they should be kept. No, and this could be, it is, yeah, and you know, we could get into quite a political thing here, and you know, we might open ourselves up to, you know, different bits, but that's good. That's discussion, right? That's what social media is for. It's a social network. So, to me, my take on it is that we don't keep animals the way they should be kept, and I do think we should all do more to eat better qualities of meat. Some people come up with the argument of actually it's too expensive, and to me, I go, okay, I'll get that. It probably is a little bit more, but if we did a little bit, that would be better. And actually, like a local butcher isn't much different to, like, your Morrison's or your Tesco's or even your Aldi. I've got an Aldi within the local town. When I go to a family butcher where they can take me to where their turkeys are, and I didn't get one from there this year actually because I was at my mum's and we had a different meat. But for the past God knows how many years, I've gone there and collected my turkey. And I go and I order the turkey. And I asked them one year, are they, raised on pasture land? And she said, yeah, you can go see where they are. She goes, they're just on the side of the hill face. And they're all roaming free. That's their life. Obviously it's all securely fenced in, so on and so forth. But you go there and you collect your turkey and it comes in a little box and it's got a little testing stick and it's got like a little information pack about where it was. And yeah, it cost, I know, probably like £6-7 more, I think it was, something like that, than a turkey that's sat in a fucking supermarket. And you go, the difference of the quality of the life that animal's had, ethically, I feel better about that. Does it taste better? Yeah, I think it does. I actually think it tastes better. Nutritionally, is it better? I don't know. Some of the studies out there say yes, it is. Some of the studies out there say no, it isn't.
Well, I'll tell you what it won't have in it. It wouldn't have
Shit.
been injected with a load of preservatives and water to actually bulk it out like the chicken breasts and that are. And that's why it wouldn't certainly have been frozen beforehand and then put out for you. Like, do not refreeze or buy it frozen. So that's that in itself is a massive difference, I think, because
100%.
they're not going to be pumping it full of chemicals.
Yeah.
The quality's in the meat, not in the. They're trying to stretch out its life, kind of thing, to get the very much from it, and then they're actually putting water in it so they can actually charge you a little bit more. Because that's one thing I notice from kind of, let's call it mainstream supermarkets to somewhere which is like a farm shop or something like that, or a local butcher. You don't get a lot of water and shit come out of the meat when you cook it.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, there's definitely less coming out of that. I'm thinking of the place that I go to, or I tend to go to. There's 2 or 3 local butchers, but the one that I go to for like my mince and stuff like that, and it's the meat's a lot softer. There's not as much fluid coming out of it. It's not gristly. It's just not. It's not shit. It's good and stuff. And you enjoy eating it. But not only do you enjoy eating it, you probably have less of it. Because these days, I'm not trying to get fucking huge. I'm not trying to lift, 250-300 kilo at a time at a deadlift or whatever it is. I'm not trying to pack on tons of muscle, to go stand on a stage or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. My sole purpose now is to be fit and healthy and to live an energetic life for my kids, to be able to go out there, in like 45 minutes, I'm going to go see my little boy play tennis. And if I had to go on the court and go have a knock with him, I want to be able to do that. But then also I want to be able to finish that and then go and do my other job if I need to, as a firefighter, I'll be able to do a full workout and then go do a job there or something like that. That's solely what my goal is.
Yeah, getting that balance right. Yeah,
it's getting that balance, absolutely. So when we look at our nutrition has to support that on a daily basis. Do I eat all the cakes and everything else like that? Yeah, of course I do. I like a little bit of cake. I'm not really a chocolate fan. I like a bit of cake. And I ain't going to deprive myself of that. But as I've already said, probably 85-90% of my diet is on these minimally processed foods, on these good, wholesome, whole foods. Of that, go back to that caveman analogy, they grew up fucking eating that. That was it. Today I've had
been eating all day, wouldn't they?
I've had eggs, nuts, seeds, grazing on bits of fucking carrot, or whatever it might be. We're eating all that sort of stuff on a continual basis. And I think it's that thing coming back to it, eat a rainbow a day, and then you're not going to go far wrong with your diet.
Yeah, I think that we do need good supplementation as well, though, these days, because we haven't got the time, have we, to even, most people don't even have the time to cook from scratch. I don't ever not cook from scratch anymore. I grew up sort of microwave meals, that was cooking. But then after having pubs and learning how to cook, now it's freshly cooked all the way. But I know it's easy for people to do that, but supplementation for someone that's on a journey like we have been or people are on, is really important, because you can't physically eat all the nutrients and stuff that you need, because you, like the cavemen, you'd be fucking out either looking for it burning energy, looking for the food, and then coming back, preparing it and eating it. But that's pretty much all you do all day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I think on a whole, a lot of people have more time than we think, but
So we
I
waste a
get that
lot
it
of time.
requires
How much time are
energy.
people
Yeah,
wasting on Netflix and sitting down?
absolutely.
And that's
So what they
conditioning
haven't got
your
is a
brain.
priority, right?
Mm,
It's a priority mix-up that a lot of people have. You know, a lot of people want this, but the priority is it's that thing about that homeostasis again. You know, we're getting out of the comfort zone. They're leaning into that pressure. So they don't want to lean into the pressure because Netflix is fucking comfortable, because Facebook is fucking comfortable, because dare I say like EastEnders or fucking whatever other shit's on TV these days is comfortable, right? That keeps them in a little bit of pleasure for a lifetime of pain. Whereas when we lean into that little bit of pain, suddenly we get a lifetime of comfort. It's amazing that.
like that.
And I think that people need to lean into that more and suddenly make it a priority. Make it, to an old coach of mine, what he used to call it was a non-negotiable. And it absolutely is. Stick it in your diary, you know, that today you're going to do fucking, I don't know, you're going to get some veg and chop it. It doesn't need to take over your life either, because I get sometimes that we've only got a certain amount of energy to do these tasks. I'm the same, right? I have to have, you know, a couple of hours a day where I don't really do anything, because my creative brain needs to think and the different things. And you know, imagine you've got kids, you know, that are charging around you, and you've got work and a husband or a wife or whatever else, and there's all these different problems that are going on. The last thing you're going to go is, right, you know what, love, I'm going to go fucking chop a load of veggies now because James and Terry said it was a good idea. You know, so it's like, how can we then make that simple? Well, you're cooking one meal anyway. I'll tell you what, get a bag, get a freezer bag, just chop a load of veggies up, drop it in. Or just buy some frozen veggies. You know what? It's not ideal. It's not the best, but there's probably not a great deal of difference in a lot of today's food that you're going to get. You know, a lot of today's like your supermarket based stuff. The nutrients, there's probably not much difference between the frozen stuff and the real stuff, because the real stuff's been sat there quite a while anyway, and it's farmed intensively. So, you know, that's been a lot of shit stuck on it. So when we look at supplementation, and to me, I kind of have a take on it. It's like, if the client needs that, and we're only going to know that probably by doing a check on them anyway, but if we've got, like, you know, suspicion, or we've done the check on them, then fucking why not? Why try and force the client to go through something that they're just going to, like, straight away, resistance, fall off the wagon. And, you know, I think too many times as coaches, people try and force their sort of opinion onto the person. You either need loads of supplementation or you don't. And I've been in both parties and been guilty of both parties, by the way. You know, I ain't fucking perfect. I learn this shit as I go along, make mistakes and learn from the mistakes as I move forward. And I think
It is
that's
different for everybody as well, though, isn't it? I mean,
it.
you have to experiment and see what works for you. I mean, I'm
You
going to
do.
this week in my private community, the personal freedom movement. I'm going to basically give them the behind the scenes of what it is I actually eat when I'm shredding down or just losing fat. What I'm actually eating as a staple for that, because I know that it's from being on different programs or coaching and mentorship with other people. It's things I know that work for me, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. Sometimes it might be making a shake, and other times I'll know that actually it's probably better for my body if I actually have all the whole fruits and have it with like the older Fake natural yogurt, zero yogurt. So
Yeah.
that's actually better for me. And because of like having the natural sweetness and stuff, or having like a local honey, that kind of thing on it, and some naked nuts which aren't salted or sugared, I'm getting what I need. Whereas if I was to have not done that, I'd be more tempted sitting there, and then the kids come in with sweets or there's a bit of chocolate on the side, and I'm like, and then that's kind of old programming. So it is different for everyone, and you do need to kind of experiment of what works for you, just as long as you do have a structure that you kind of stick to, and that you know that if something's not working, that you're going to change it.
And the
So
only way we're going to know that is by testing and try and measure it, right? And it's that thing again, you know, like I say, if somebody needs supplementation, then let's fucking give them that supplementation. Let's not say no, they can't have that, because that's going to aid them in moving forward. You know, typical thing is, and you probably get this asked a lot, I know I have done over the time, is like protein shakes. Do I need a protein shake? Don't I need a protein shake? Well, it depends. It depends, because it depends on yes, people have more time than they think, but how much time has that person got? You know, generally, have they got a busy life, you know, where they're out the door at 5 o'clock in the morning and they get back at 6 o'clock at night and they ain't got a lot of time to prep, but they've got kids to worry about and the partner's been looking after the kids all day? Yeah, actually, fucking protein shake might help that person out. It's not perfect, but it's better than McDonald's.
Yeah, it's the environment, isn't it? I mean, some people, if
Yeah,
I'm losing weight, I know that, right, I'll wait an hour after workout, or if I'm hungry, I'll wait an hour. But if I want to gain muscle, then I'll basically have in my mind, right, after this workout, I need to have the nutrients into my body within 20 minutes, half an hour, so that the nutrients can go to the right place in my body needs it, especially if I fatigue my muscles, gone to failure, that kind of thing. So it is about, as you rightly put, about testing and having that level of awareness. But your awareness, I mean, somebody might need, if it's been at work all day and then they're going to the gym, they might need a pre-workout. One thing I don't agree with is chemicals and these kind of things, chemical based. I prefer as naturopath as possible. I think that we do. Well, no, I don't think we know, and everybody knows this, that we live in a world where we want instant gratification straight away. People do waste a hell of a lot of money on things. So whether that's actually investing in themselves with good supplementation, but I think a lot of people I know will actually pay people to bring meals to them. It used to, I think it started off years ago where it was like the vegetable box would turn up on your door. And actually something that I thought of doing, I mean, I ran pubs for 20 years and did chefing and stuff. And I thought, wouldn't it be a good idea if you kind of just had all the raw ingredients, exactly what you needed, with like a little card telling you exactly, this is what you pinch of salt you put in here, and then you put the little bit of it all measured out for you. So it's like a chef in a box. Well, guess what came out 20 years later?
yeah,
Basically
HelloFresh or whatever it was,
chef in
yeah.
a box for fucking £8 each. And it's like,
Yeah,
wow, because people don't know how to cook.
it's been lost because we don't do it at school anymore. Kids don't, you know, my little boy, he's just, or my eldest boy, he's now gone to like the grammar school and got into that. He got into that last year. But up to now, I still haven't seen that there's been a cookery lesson put on the timetable. School
Really?
prepares, yeah, and I think this is criminal. And again, this will go off on a tangent again, but school, in my opinion, prepares kids to follow, doesn't prepare kids to lead, doesn't prepare kids for life. I think there should be definitely financial education. There should definitely be cookery education, to be all the basics like fucking sewing a button on and all that sort of shit that we have to do on a daily basis. That's life. Unless you're going to be into religion or anything else, then focusing on all that sort of stuff probably ain't going to serve you. If you're into that, cool, go focus on that. If you're not and you're not going to be into that, then don't focus on it. Focus on the stuff that's going to serve you. Or if we must, let's do it all. You know, I think these sort of basics are sort of missing. And when it's coming to our health, when we're looking at this, something like 1 in 3 now, Terry, develop cardiovascular disease, some form of cardiovascular disease. That's like criminal. It's absolutely criminal. So surely it has to start with an education, because when we get to our age, you know, or a little bit younger as when we started our journey, they may or may not start that journey. They may be farther gone. That was a bit like West Country. That might be farther gone. They might be further gone than we were. They might be like, "Fucking, this is too hard, man," and they don't do it, and they just kick back. And I've seen that. And I've worked with that type of person who really struggles with it. And then what's the outcome for that person?
Well, I think what's just popped in my head is the difference between dying when you were like 50, 60 or 70, 80. That's the big
Absolutely.
difference. If you
Yeah.
don't change the way in which you live your life and the way in which you educate and invest in yourself, by the time you're sort of 40, then I think you're right. I think you don't generally. And
But
you
yeah,
know,
we
habits,
all know that the NHS is stretched, you know, stretched massively, and that, like, you know, there's certainly at the minute, obviously with COVID being, you know, as present as it is, and we're complaining about the NHS. But if you look into the statistics on it, cancer, you know, which a lot of cancers can be prevented via better lifestyles, cardiovascular disease, you know, strokes, things like that. They're so much higher than COVID ever is. COVID's just compounding those as a problem. Yet nobody's focusing on fucking health. What the government
yeah,
did, right?
always.
What did the government do when we first come back on board? There's your meal vouchers. Go get yourself a takeaway. Gyms aren't open yet, by the way, but go get yourself a fucking takeaway. And it's like,
Oh,
what's going
wow.
on?
what I'm going to say, I'm actually going to record this, and actually I'll send it to you in a private message later, because I'll do like a record the screen thing later. But yeah, New Year, Boris stood on telly going, forget about going on a diet, forget about New Year's resolutions. All you need to do is go get your booster. Go get your booster. It's far easier than a diet, far easier than this. And I just went, what the fuck are you telling people, Boris? Like, telling people not to like eat healthy. That half of the problem I completely, and you can tell by the way I've just spouted that energy out. I'm very passionate about this, but they don't set you up for everything's almost like, oh, this is going to cover or mask this up afterwards. Oh, you've got this problem. Oh, okay, this will mask it up. Whereas preventatory, through knowledge, through the education, when people are younger, will stop all of that. When the problem that we're in now, and people that are getting ill or don't live healthy lives, and a lot of it's mindset, a lot of it can be reversed. Everything
It can be
we want
reversed,
and need is inside us
but
to be happy and healthy, and everything
it needs to
grows.
start now. Needs to start now, mate, because the likes of you, I, and every other health and fitness professional out there, mindset coach out there, if you impact on one person's life, the compound effect of that, if we look at that, that's probably, you know, so that's one person. Well, if they speak to one person, then that's two people. If they speak to another person each, then that's like four people, isn't it? So, you know, suddenly it's going to keep doubling and doubling and doubling. But yet what we're seeing is, we see children that sit up all night on the fucking phones, on their Xboxes and everything else. They get up and that's the first thing they do. So straight away, the evening and the morning routines are shot to shit, because the brain's not receiving what it needs to receive naturally, right? It's not going through its natural circadian rhythm of wake and sleep cycles. So straight away, when they come into that hormonal sort of stage, the hormones are fucking being thrown all over the place anyway, because they're not sleeping properly. Then what we're seeing is that they walk to school and they go get a can of fucking Monster, or they eat some other shit that's on the way to school, rather than a decent fucking breakfast, because parents are having to fucking work that hard because we're living in this constant fucking rat race. And I just
not
think,
eating good breakfast, having like something like a fucking, what is it, pan and
fucking
chocolate
Pop-Tart or
or
something.
something.
I know.
Yeah, you're like, what?
And it's like, where's the nutrition?
Yeah, I almost went, like, I wanted to go crazy when I heard, oh fuck it, I'll just say it. My daughter said that she was like just having like a fried hash brown for breakfast, and I was just like, with what else? It's like, no, just the hash browns, and I was just like,
but yet we're the ones that aren't cool anymore, mate. You know, we're the like, you almost call people call like you're a fucking food police, and you ain't a food police. I actually just give a shit about people's health. And you know, because I've been there, I've been, you know, on that opposite side of it. You know, my dad wasn't unhealthy. He was just one of those people that, yes, he smoked and he drank a tiny bit, you know, like a little capful of whiskey every night, you know, but he had 2 heart attacks and a stroke by the time he was, by the time he was 50, I think it was, something like that. You know, by the time I was 10, he'd had that. So I grew up with that. So when I look back that as a story, that's where it all comes from. And it's like, I don't want anyone to go through that. And it doesn't need to be that fucking way. A lot of this can be prevented. You know, there's a friend of mine who did this for a full on as a living, like just teaching health to people, because he saw that many people die of fucking cancer in front of him. And it was like, fucking hell, man, when are we going to knock on the door and say, fucking wake up? When are we going to ring that doorbell and say, enough's enough of this? We need to fucking change something, because modern society of your 5 a day bullshit and all this other fast food stuff and everything fucking outside is easy isn't working. It ain't working. We've got to change something. Something has to change.
Everything's made a trend. That's the problem with change, is they make it a trend, don't they? So people follow the trends. And then whatever, like keeping up with the Joneses or influencers, that kind of thing. But there's not enough people in the creative space that are actually talking sense, rather than like almost trying to tax everything. I mean, they did the sugar tax thing, but what then people don't realize is if something says no or low sugar, the chemicals that's replicated in that food or drink to make it sweet actually does more damage, like tricking your body that is getting its sugar fix or something, and releasing chemicals in the brain, dopamine, these kind of things, because you're like, oh, you know, oh, that's going to be nice, I'm gonna have a treat, is actually worse than just having natural sugar anyway. And sugar is like the most addictive thing on the planet, but because it's taxable, but there's actually plenty of sugar in raw foods and natural foods anyway. And that one of my
Yeah.
favorite things to do is just to get like root vegetables and well, I soak them in Makangan water, get the pesticides, the oils, and the waxes off of them, and it makes such a massive difference. Then I cook them, but I pretty much just roast them. And I'll have like some chili flakes and some garlic and rosemary and what have you. Literally just chuck it all in. And it naturally, the natural sweetness comes out of things like the carrots and the nips. And it's lovely. And it's the only way I got some of my younger humans around me to eat those kind of vegetables when they were younger, because they were like, oh, but also it was easy because it was all in one fucking tray. It wasn't like pots being boiled. Like, why boil the vegetables? Okay, steam them even better. But I was like, oh, I'd always use the water from boiling things either for like a stock later. I mean, you're talking to a
Yeah.
guy that's had a pub like as a chef, so nothing would be wasted. Everything would be saved. Even down to like the ends. The ends would be used for stocks, or you'd pull them out, you'd mash them up, stick them in the bloody dog food, make your own dog food. So there
All
is,
of mine goes to my dog. All of them.
yeah, there's so many easy ways. Yeah, admittingly, I put my hand up. It's time consuming, and you've got to have the time to do it. But when you actually attribute your time to certain things, it's actually going to put time on the end of your life.
But what does that give us? That investment in time, because everything's an investment, right? We either pay for it financially or pay for it in time. We know that from like the business concepts, yeah. So what does that give us? What does it then give us the ability? Because the type of clients I work with are people who want to, improve their health and basically have more energy to go play with the kids, to go do the things that they want to do, whatever they might be. They want to go fucking snowboarding, mountain biking, parachuting. They might want to run a marathon. They might want to kick a ball about in the park with, their kids. So when we look at those things that are, yes, time consuming, that gives you the energy to do them, because it helps you look a little bit better. Because you look a little bit better, your confidence then might go sky high. Because your confidence is high, your health is improving, your mindset's improving. Because of that, you're then pushing harder in work. You suddenly get a better job, or you get a promotion because the boss is going, fucking hell, they're nailing it. You come home because you're feeling great about that. You've got a bit extra money in your pocket. You splash a bit on the kids. But then your partner looks at you and she goes, fucking hell, they've got a different glow about them. So luckily you start to get a little bit more, right? And that's always a win, yeah? So, you started to get a bit more.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Absolutely, mate, right?
Your
So,
skin, your eyes, you're going to be more vibrant. Energetically, your soul is going to be glowing brighter, as you put. And people are attracted to that.
It's an investment, mate. It's an investment into your health. So, or we go on the flip side, can't be bothered with that. I'll get a plate of fucking chips and sit down and watch Netflix.
Have a beer.
Which actually doesn't serve your energy, doesn't serve your mind at all, makes you feel a little bit shit about yourself. You get up the next day, you've still got the fucking same job. You ain't got any more money in your pocket. In fact, you've actually got less in your pocket because you shelled it out on Netflix. You can't get the better job. You still come home feeling shit, feeling the same because so-and-so's give you shit at work. You take that out on the fucking missus and she says, fuck you, you're not having any tonight, and you go to bed unhappy. Get up the next day and repeat. So you've got two cycles, haven't you?
Rinse, repeat. Yeah. No, you're spot on. You're absolutely spot on. I know that you're going to have to go and do the school run very soon. So
I am, mate. Yeah, I've got to take my little boy to tennis.
So what I'm going to do is to say, what is your 3 top tips for getting fit, healthy, and wealthy in your mind for 2022? And then let everybody know where they can find you if they want to get more insights, more motivation, or to actually reach out and work with you.
No worries. So my 3 top tips. I've done 3. My 3 top tips for I'll sometimes do that, like 3. We're on 3. My 3 top tips for 2022 moving forward. The first one has to be just fucking start. Just start. Make that commitment to start. And to do that, you need
later.
Yeah, just absolutely. Start now, get perfect later. Just you've got to get off your ass and go do something, because the biggest thing is that nobody's going to do it. Nobody's going to do it for you, and it's the start that stops most people. It's the start it's that stopping that's going to keep you stuck where you are right now. It's going to keep you stuck in that moment of how we spoke about a few moments ago. It's going to stop you moving forward and actually achieving the things that you want to achieve in life. You don't have to be perfect to start. If you go out there and you say, you know what, I'm going to stick with trainers on, that's a start. That's a 5-minute action that can be as simple as that. And that kind of leads into like my second thing, is that it has to be easy. Because if it ain't easy, you ain't going to fucking do it. So, and that kind of blends into like another point, which it's in my third point, but it kind of blends into it. You have to want to do it. And if it's easy and you want to do it, you're probably more likely to do it. If you say, I'm going to go to the gym, and you fucking hate the gym, and it's 10 mile away from your house and you've got to drive there, what's the likelihood of you be continuing at that? It's probably remote, like. So for me, you've got to make it easy. It's got to be easy. So get your trainers, stick them by your bed, stick your alarm next to your fucking trainers. So you get up and your trainers are already there. It's easy. You've controlled the environment to make you go do it. That's easy. If you have to turn the alarm off that's next to your bed and actually pull yourself out of bed, that's fucking hard work. Especially at the minute when it's snowing in the morning, or it's like, you know, freezing cold, or it's dark, or it's raining, or whatever else. Make it easy. Make it as simple as easy as you can. Then you're going to do it. Last thing kind of blends on from that would be point number 3 is it has to be sustainable. I see so many people do this, especially on the food intake side, on the dietary side. If it isn't sustainable, you ain't going to do it long term. So there's no point in you fucking starting it. You know, how many people I would see that have gone out there, I've spoke to over this last year, that have done something like the keto diet. I've got nothing against that. If that works for you, that's fantastic. And if you can maintain that, that's fantastic. But here's the thing. If you start that one week and stop it the next week, you're no further forward. If you then pick it up again the following week and then stop it the next week, you're operating on 50%. 50% ain't going to fucking move the needle anywhere. You know, you rev your car at 50% revs and see if it fucking moves. It's going to stay stuck in the driveway, right? Especially if it was on a hill, and that's where you are when you're first starting. You're on a hill, you've got to get that momentum moving forward. That inertia is going to move you forward, and before you know it, we're running, we're not walking. So it's got to be sustainable. Whatever you're going to do has to be sustainable. So make it easy. Do something that's fun that you're going to enjoy. Test different things if you don't know what that is. If you like running, go running. If you like biking, go biking. If you want to go in the gym, go in the gym. If you want to jump on a program with me or you, jump on a program with me or you. Yeah, whatever it is. And then make it sustainable. And then my last point is actually the fourth one that's just come into my head, is you definitely need some form of accountability. Okay. Neither me nor you, Terry, can make anybody accountable. What we can do is give them the ability to be accountable. But as you rightly said earlier on, having somebody there that you know that you're letting down if you don't turn up gives it a bigger driver. Now, if you haven't got that, and generally you can't afford to invest in a coach, I've had coaches for years now because I just think what I get from them is loads. But if you can't do that, stick on fucking Facebook and tag 10 of your closest friends, you know, on Facebook. And if you haven't got 10 real friends on Facebook, tag 10 of your people you don't even know on Facebook that you're friends with. You know, just tag them into your post and go like, I'm going to do this. Can you hold me to it? Tag me in it if you want to do that, or tag Terry in it if you want to do that.
Yeah, because the
tag
fear
somebody
will
in it.
make you want to do it, because you don't want to basically look like a mug.
100%, mate. 100%, because you're going to do it because you know someone's going to say, oh, he was doing that. That's why recently I've said about the mountain biking. That's why I've said I'm going to do this race on a mountain bike. You know, fucking scared shitless about racing on a mountain bike, to be honest, because there's fucking kids that are doing backflips and all sorts of shit on them. Like, you know, I'll be struggling to stay on it without stabilizers, you know. But I put that out there and I've told people, because now I've told people I look like a twat if I don't do it.
Yeah, you got to do it, haven't you?
So, you know, they're kind of my 4 top tips moving into 2022.
Yeah, great tips. Yeah, you don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to start to get great. Get out of your head that you're dead anyway. The amount of time we spend actually ruminating and thinking about what we want to do, rather than just taking, you know, a lot less time just to actually, as you say, push the needle and start doing something. Massive one, accountability or community, because that's going to give you the accountability to create the implementation to move. Yeah, so if it's, you know, it's the 6th, isn't it? So if you're 5 days into basically this week, this new year, and you're not already doing the things you want to do, then just, you know, do a couple of things, as like myself and James are saying there. Get some accountability, get a friend, reach out. There's so many different ways you can get that accountability. Or just a bit of knowledge, so you can start doing things slightly differently. One thing I think is huge personally, and I'll give you 2 little tips for losing weight, or even just creating good habits in your life in 2022. Don't eat 3-4 hours before bedtime. You'll have better sleep for it. You'll have better healing, and your gut health is better, and that's where most of your chemicals and your hormones are produced, which are then released through your sleep patterns. And make sure you're drinking enough water. If you're drinking enough water, most people's bodies are dehydrated. Most humans on the planet are dehydrated. So you could drink like a pint of water, you probably wouldn't need a snack. So you're drinking enough water, you're naturally not going to eat as much food, and your body's going to thank you for it. Your skin's going to thank you, your eyes, your basic vitality. Where can we find you, mate?
So I'm on most platforms, Facebook, Instagram. I've not started on TikTok, although I'm going to push into the discomfort, mate. So yeah, I'm on TikTok, I'm on LinkedIn, and then my website, which is just about to be redone, is jamesbreakspeare.co.uk.
Amazing.
Awesome, mate. Thanks for having me on,
mate. And yeah, go and get your school run done, and I will speak to you soon. Thank you so much for coming on the channels today and having a great catch up with me. Happy 2022 to you, my friend, and we will speak soon. Take good care.
That's one. Thanks, buddy.
Cheers, guys. See you later, everybody. Toodles. And saying goodbye down here to Clubhouse as well. Adios, muchachos.